Morning light slid through the thin curtains like a pale whisper. It fell across 12-year-old Haya's face, but she didn't move. Her small body lay curled, her breathing uneven, as if she had run miles in her sleep. Mehak stood at Haya's bedside, worry deepening in her eyes. "Haya, sweetheart, wake up. It's almost 7:30. No answer. Not even the lazy stretch Haya used to give every morning. Just a faint tremble in her fingers. Mehak touched her forehead. Cool. But something in the girl's expression, tight, frightened, made her mother's stomach twist. "Haya, do you feel sick?" Finally, Haya whispered, without opening her eyes. "I'm not taking the pills, Mama." Mehak froze. "Which pills?" "The ones Aunt Soraya gives me," Haya said, voice shrinking. "She says they're vitamins, but I don't want them anymore." Mehak blinked. Vitamins. Soraya had mentioned energy boosters for Haya's weakness, but Mehak had barely paid attention. Just another one of her sister's endless health suggestions. But the way Haya said it, "Why don't you want them?" Mehak asked softly. Haya swallowed. Her throat bobbed. "They make me feel wrong. Heavy." She hesitated. "And I see things when I sleep." Mehak's breath hitched. "What things?" Haya slowly sat up. Her eyes were wide but dull, as if a part of her spirit had been washed away. "Someone calling me," she said. "A man's voice. Or maybe it's a woman. I don't know." Tears pooled at the edges of her lashes. "They tell me to stay quiet. To not tell anyone. To obey." A chill crawled up Mehak's spine. Before she could respond, the bedroom door creaked open. Soraya walked in with her usual soft smile, holding a tray of tea and breakfast. "Good morning," she chimed. "I brought Haya's vitamin for today." "She looks pale again." Haya jerked back against the headboard as if the pill bottle were a weapon. "No," she blurted, too loud for her small voice. "I don't want it." If Soraya's smile faltered, it was only for half a second. But Mehak caught it. That flash of irritation. That silent flare of anger quickly buried under her gentle aunt mask. "Haya," Soraya said sweetly, "don't be difficult. These are good for you." Haya's hands balled into trembling fists. "No." Mehak felt something inside her snap. She stepped between them. "It's okay. She doesn't have to take anything she doesn't want to." Soraya blinked at Mehak, surprise flickering behind her calm expression. "I'm only trying to help," she murmured, her tone tightening. "I know," Mehak said. "But let her rest today." Soraya's jaw twitched. Barely noticeable. She turned and left the room with silent, sharp footsteps. The moment she was gone, Haya whispered, "She gets angry when I don't take them." Mehak stroked her daughter's hair. "It's all right. You're safe." But the truth was, Mehak herself didn't feel safe. Not anymore. Not when her daughter shrank in fear from the woman she once adored. That evening, Mehak made a decision. "We're going to the doctor tomorrow," she said firmly. "And bring the pills with us." Soraya tried to intervene. "Oh, Mehak, that's unnecessary. Children get nightmares. It's normal." Mehak didn't let her finish. "For my peace of mind. That's all." Soraya's lips tightened. And for the first time, there was something cold in her eyes. Like a warning. The next morning, Mehak took Haya to Dr. Aryan Halim, a respected child psychiatrist. Aryan examined the little white pill Mehak placed on the table. There was no label. No brand. Just a blank capsule. Aryan's brows furrowed. "Where did this come from?" he asked. "My sister," Mehak replied. "She said it was just vitamins." Aryan's face changed. Very slowly. "Kinder, do you know what this is?" he asked Haya gently. Haya shook her head. "This," Aryan said carefully, "is not a vitamin. It's a sedative with psychotropic effects. Strong enough that even adults should be monitored while taking it." Mehak's heart plummeted. "What are you saying?" Her voice cracked. "She gave this to my child." Aryan nodded gravely. "This medication suppresses memory, heightens fear responses, and interferes with REM sleep. Nightmares, confusion, emotional withdrawal. All of this makes sense. Mehak covered her mouth. Hea clutched her mother's arm so tightly her nails dug in. "Why would Aunt give me that?" she asked, voice trembling. Arian hesitated. Then he said the words that shattered Mehak's entire world. "Only people who already use this medication usually have access to it. Meaning, your sister is likely taking the same pills. And has been for a long time." Mehak shook her head in disbelief. "No, Soraya. She's perfectly fine." Arian interrupted softly. "Not fine. Functioning. But hiding something." Hea's lips quivered. "I saw her once," she whispered. "She was staring at the mirror, talking to herself. She didn't know I was watching. She said someone was inside the mirror who tells her what to do." Mehak went still. Her hands turned cold. Arian leaned forward, voice somber. "Your daughter was not being helped. She was being controlled." Silence filled the room. Heavy, suffocating. And it was only the beginning of the darkness to come. The house felt different after the doctor's visit. The walls seemed to listen. The silence seemed to breathe. Mehak walked through the hallway with Hea's small hand wrapped tightly around her fingers. Every step felt heavier than the last, as if the truth Dr. Arian had revealed still echoed in her ears. Sedatives. Memory suppression. Psychotropic effects. Given to a child. By her own aunt. Mehak swallowed hard, trying to calm the storm rising inside her. She didn't want Hea to see her panic. Not now. Not when the poor girl had been living in fear for weeks without saying a word. When they entered the living room, Soraya was sitting on the sofa, knitting a pale blue sweater. She looked up the moment they walked in. Her smile appeared instantly, warm, practiced, too perfect. "There you two are. I made lunch. Sit down, rest. Hea, darling, you look tired again." Mehak stepped in front of her daughter as if shielding her. "We need to talk," she said, her voice firm but trembling underneath. Soraya's knitting needles paused mid-air. "Talk? About what?" Mehak inhaled shakily. "About the pills." A strange, thin silence filled the room. Soraya placed the half-knit sweater aside and folded her hands neatly on her lap. "What about them?" she asked calmly. "Hea isn't taking them anymore," Mehak said. Soraya's face twitched, just a flicker, barely visible. "She needs them," Soraya insisted softly. "She's been weak." "They're not vitamins," Mehak snapped, her patience cracking. "They're sedatives. Strong ones." Soraya's eyes widened, but the shock seemed practiced, like she had rehearsed it. "That's ridiculous," she said with a brittle laugh. "Where would I even get such a thing?" "I told you. Stop lying." The words came out of Mehak before she could stop them. Soraya went still. "Hea has been having nightmares," Mehak continued. "Hallucinations. Fear. Withdrawal. Exactly what those pills cause." She stepped closer. "Why did you give them to her?" Soraya opened her mouth, closed it, then stood up abruptly. "Because," she said sharply, "you're never home to take care of her." "Someone had to." Mehak felt the ground tilt beneath her feet. "That does not justify drugging her," she whispered. Soraya flinched, then her expression softened into something sorrowful, something almost human. "I wasn't drugging her," she murmured. "I was trying to calm her. Children these days, they get anxious, overactive." "She's 12, Soraya." 12. Soraya pressed her fingers to her temples. "You're overreacting." "No," Mehak cut her off. "I've been underreacting for weeks." Hea pressed into her mother's side, clutching her hand with both of her own. Soraya's gaze dropped to the trembling girl, and something dark flickered behind her eyes. "Hea," she said gently, "you know I love you, right?" The child froze. "Come here, sweetheart." The softness of her tone made Mehak's skin crawl. Before Hea could even blink, Mehak stepped forward and said firmly, "She's staying with me." For the first time, Soraya's mask cracked. Her face tightened, jaw locking, nostrils flaring, eyes narrowing into something sharp. Something dangerous. "You're making a mistake," she whispered. Mehak held her ground. No. This time I'm not. Soraya inhaled slowly, controlling herself, and when she exhaled, her face was calm again. Too calm. She smoothed her scarf, lifted her chin, and said, I see. You finally believe the voices. Mehak blinked. What? Soraya smiled, a soft, eerie smile that didn't reach her eyes. The whispers, she said. The warnings. They've always been right, Mehak. You just never listened. A chill ran down Mehak's spine. What voices? But Soraya just tilted her head, like she was listening to something only she could hear. There are things you don't understand, she murmured. Things I can see clearly because of those pills. They show me what's real. Mehak felt her heart drop. Real? Was she talking about the mirror? The one Haya mentioned? Before Mehak could respond, Soraya's voice broke into a soft, trembling whisper. You think I'm the villain. But all I ever wanted was to protect her. The child. She has the same eyes, the same fear, just like... She stopped herself. Just like who? Mehak's breath caught. But before she could push further, Soraya blinked rapidly, as if waking from a trance, and walked toward the kitchen. We'll talk later, she said, waving a dismissive hand. For now, let's just have lunch. There was no lunch prepared. The stove was off. The counters were empty. Haya tightened her grip on Mehak's arm. Mama, she whispered, I don't want to stay here. Mehak bent down and kissed her daughter's forehead. You won't. Her voice was steel now. I promise. That night, Mehak couldn't sleep. She sat on her bed with her laptop open, a cup of tea cold beside her. Every search result she found about the pill terrified her further. Sedation. Memory loss. Dependency. Hallucinations. Emotional numbness. She gripped the pill bottle so tightly her knuckles turned white. Haya had been taking these for weeks. Who did Soraya get them from? Why did she have them? And most terrifying of all, what exactly did she believe the pills were protecting Haya from? Around midnight, Mehak stepped out to get water. She passed Soraya's room. The door was slightly ajar. Against her better judgment, Mehak peeked inside. Soraya was standing in front of the mirror. Her posture was rigid. Her eyes were fixed on her own reflection. And she was whispering. Not yet, she said softly. No, she doesn't know. Yes. I understand. I'll do it. Just tell me when. Mehak's blood turned to ice. Suddenly, Soraya stopped and turned her head slightly. Someone's watching. Mehak jerked back from the doorway, heart slamming against her ribs. She hurried down the hall with trembling hands and locked her bedroom door. Haya was asleep, curled under the blanket, unaware of the storm building just outside. Mehak slid into bed beside her, pulled her close, and whispered, Tomorrow, we leave this house. But outside her room, she heard soft footsteps, stopping at her door. Then a slow, deliberate whisper. You can't hide her forever, Mehak. Soraya. Then silence. Heavy. Watching. Waiting. The mirror in the hallway seemed to gleam in the darkness. And Mehak finally realized. This wasn't just about pills. It was about something else. Something Soraya believed lived behind the glass. And it wanted Haya. Morning arrived with a heaviness that felt unnatural. As if the night had not ended, only thinned. Mehak woke before the sun, her eyes burning from a night without rest. She'd spent hours staring at the door, terrified that the faint whisper she heard, Soraya's whisper, might return. Beside her, Haya slept curled tightly, clutching a stuffed rabbit against her chest. Even in sleep, her fingers trembled. I'm taking her away, Mehak promised herself. Today. Before something else happens. But even as she decided it, she knew leaving quietly would not be easy. Not with Soraya awake. Not with whatever darkness lived inside her sister, and whatever voices instructed her. Mehak gently shook Haya. Sweetheart, wake up. We're leaving this morning. Haya's eyes opened slowly, as if waking from a long, heavy dream. Are we going somewhere safe? She whispered. Mehak's throat tightened. Yes. Somewhere safe. Outside in the hallway, a floorboard creaked. Both mother and daughter froze. Footsteps approached, soft, measured, almost deliberate. Then a familiar voice floated through the door. "Good morning. Breakfast is ready." Mehak squeezed Haya's hand. Soraya's voice sounded normal, bright, warm. But Mehak now knew better. She opened the door slowly. Soraya stood there wearing a lavender scarf and an unreadable expression. "Haya, darling," she said, "I made your favorite, porridge with honey." Haya flinched back. Soraya pretended not to notice. "Come to the kitchen," she added. "We need to talk." Mehak stepped forward. "We're leaving." Soraya blinked. "Leaving? For where?" "Just for a few days," Mehak replied cautiously. "To stay with a friend." Soraya tilted her head and smiled. A chilling smile, soft but sharp like glass. "No," she said simply. Mehak stiffened. "What do you mean, no?" Soraya took a small step forward. "I mean," she said quietly, "you're not taking her anywhere." Mehak felt heat rush to her face. "She's my daughter. I don't need your permission." A silent, tense moment passed. Then Soraya's voice dropped to a whisper. "You don't understand what will happen if you take her away." Haya clutched Mehak's shirt, eyes wide and glossy. "What will happen?" Mehak demanded. Soraya sighed, a soft, weary sound. "There are things that protect her, and things that follow her." She glanced toward the hallway mirror. "They're watching. They told me not to let her go." Mehak's heart stopped. "Who told you?" she whispered. Soraya smiled to herself, almost tenderly. "The ones inside the glass." Haya whimpered, burying her face against her mother's side. Mehak felt something inside her snap. "That's enough," she hissed. "You need help, Soraya. Professional help." For the first time in days, something changed in Soraya's expression. Her mask slipped. She looked wounded, almost childlike. "Help," she repeated. "You think I'm sick?" Her eyes filled with tears, not normal tears, but tears that shook with rage, fear, and something deeper, something broken. "I'm not sick," she whispered. "They're real. They've always been real." Then her gaze flicked back to Haya. "And they want her." Mehak grabbed Haya's wrist. "We're leaving. Right now." Soraya's face contorted, fear, fury, desperation all crashing together. "No," she cried. "You don't understand, Mehak. If you take her away, something terrible will." But Mehak didn't wait to hear the rest. She pushed past her sister, almost dragging Haya toward the front door. Her hands shook so violently she dropped her keys twice. Behind her, Soraya's voice rose, cracking and trembling. "You're making a mistake. You can't protect her from what follows her. You can't stop what's coming." Mehak finally shoved the key into the lock. Her fingers twisted. The door jerked open, and sunlight spilled into the house like salvation. But just as she stepped outside, Haya looked back. Standing in the hallway, half disappeared into shadow, Soraya stared at them. Her eyes were empty. Her lips barely moved. But Haya heard it. A whisper meant only for her. "Don't worry, little one. You'll come back to me. When they call you again." Haya's breath hitched. "Who?" she whispered. Soraya smiled. "The ones you dream of." Mehak didn't breathe until the car was on the road, miles away from the house. She parked in front of a small guest house where she'd booked a room online in a panic, anywhere away from Soraya. She held Haya on her lap, kissing her forehead again and again. "It's okay. We're safe now. We're safe." But Haya didn't answer. She was staring at the side view mirror, her small face pale, her eyes wide. "Haya." Mehak cupped her chin. "What is it?" Haya pointed a trembling finger at the reflection. "I saw someone," she whispered. Mehak felt her skin crawl. "Who?" Haya swallowed hard. "There was a shadow behind me. But when I turned around, it wasn't there." That night, inside the guesthouse room, Mehak called Dr. Aryan. His voice came through the line calm and steady. "You did the right thing. Soraya's behavior suggests severe psychosis. Haya may also be experiencing induced fear or trauma. Mehak rubbed her forehead. She kept mentioning voices and mirrors. Arian paused. What kind of voices? She said they warn her, guide her, tell her what's real. The doctor let out a slow, grim breath. That sounds like auditory hallucination. But the mirror fixation is concerning. What does it mean? Mehak whispered. It means, Arian said gently, your sister's condition may be worse than we thought. Mehak swallowed. I'm scared for Haya. She needs a safe environment, Arian replied. And as for your sister, this is no longer just a family issue. It's a mental health crisis. She needs immediate intervention. Mehak looked at Haya, who sat curled on the bed watching the door, as if expecting someone to knock. Doctor, Mehak whispered, voice quivering, what if Soraya tries to find us? Arian's voice came back steady but grave. Then call me. And call the authorities if you feel unsafe. Mehak nodded, even though he couldn't see her. Try to sleep, Arian said softly. Haya needs you calm. But as Mehak ended the call, she saw something that made her blood freeze. On the guesthouse dresser was a mirror. And in it, Haya wasn't looking at her own reflection. She was looking beside it, as if something stood right next to her in the glass. Haya, Mehak whispered, her heart stopping. What do you see? Haya's voice was tiny, shaking. I think it followed us. Rain tapped softly against the window of the guesthouse, a steady rhythm that should have been soothing. But inside the dimly lit room, every sound felt amplified, every shadow thickened, every reflection sharpened into something watchful. Mehak stood frozen, staring at her daughter. Haya, she whispered, careful not to alarm her. Tell me, what do you see in the mirror? Haya didn't blink. Her small shoulders were tense, her hands balled into fists on her knees. The mirror across the room reflected both of them. But Haya wasn't looking at her own image. She was staring at the empty space just behind her reflection. It's moving, Haya breathed. Mehak's skin prickled. What is? The shadow, Haya said. It was standing next to me in the mirror. But now. Her voice went thinner. Now it's closer. Mehak stepped in front of the mirror immediately, blocking Haya's view. Her heart hammered so hard it felt like her ribs might crack. She forced herself to look. Her own reflection stared back. The bed behind her. The curtains. Nothing else. No shadow. But Haya was shaking, too terrified for this to be imagination. Mehak knelt beside her. It's okay, sweetheart. Mirrors can play tricks when we're scared. No, Haya whispered, her lips trembling. It's the same shadow from my dreams. Mehak froze. Dreams? What dreams? Haya hugged herself tighter. I wasn't dreaming before. I didn't want to tell you. I thought it was because of the pills. But she swallowed. I've been seeing him for months. Even before the pills. Mehak felt every word like ice dropping down her spine. Him. Haya, who is he? Haya buried her face in Mehak's arm. Her voice came muffled, broken. The man in the mirror. Later that night, after Haya fell asleep in Mehak's arms, Mehak stepped quietly out into the hallway. Her hands trembled around her phone as she dialed Dr. Arian again. He picked up on the second ring. Mehak. We need help, she whispered urgently. There's something wrong with Haya. She's seeing things. Shadows. A man in mirrors. Arian paused. Has anything like this happened before? Never. But she said it started months ago. Mehak ran a shaking hand through her hair. She said the shadow followed us. Here. The doctor exhaled thoughtfully. This could be trauma-triggered hallucination, he said carefully. Children sometimes develop fear projections when they feel trapped or unsafe. But she saw it before the pills, Mehak insisted. She never told me. Arian's voice softened. That might mean she's been scared for a long time. Longer than either of us realized. Mehak's eyes burned with guilt. How could I have missed it? You work long hours, Arian said gently. You trusted your sister. You're not to blame. Mehak nodded, even though tears slipped down her cheeks silently. "Bring her to my clinic tomorrow morning," Arian continued. "I want to run a full psychological screening. And Mehak, don't let her near any mirrors tonight." Mehak blinked. "Why?" "Because," Arian said slowly, "children often project their deepest fears onto reflections. Mirrors can become anchors for whatever their mind is creating." Mehak's fingers went cold. "I'll cover it," she said quickly. "Good. Keep her close. Stay in light. And call me if anything." The line suddenly crackled, then went dead. Mehak checked her phone. Full signal. She frowned. A glitch. She turned toward the guesthouse room door, and heard a faint tapping inside. Tap, tap, tap. Her heart lurched. She hurried inside. Hea was still asleep on the bed, curled tightly under the blankets. But the noise continued. Tap, tap, tap. Mehak turned slowly. The mirror. Something was hitting the inside of the glass. Her breath caught. She stepped closer. Her reflection stared back. And then, tap. A small, gray smudge appeared in the bottom corner of the mirror. Like a fingerprint. On the wrong side. Her whole body went cold. "No," she whispered. "This is not real. This is not happening." She grabbed a towel from the table and threw it over the mirror, covering it entirely. The tapping stopped instantly. Silence fell, deep and heavy. Mehak backed away, chest rising and falling fast. "This is stress. This is exhaustion." She told herself this again and again. But the terror in her veins didn't ease. It was nearly 3 a.m. when Mehak finally drifted into a fragile sleep beside Hea. But the peace didn't last long. A soft cry woke her. "Mama!" Mehak opened her eyes. Hea was sitting up, tears streaking her cheeks. "I had the dream again," she sobbed. Mehak pulled her close. "It's all right, sweetheart. It's over. You're safe with me." "No," Hea whispered, her voice trembling. "He said something this time." Mehak's chest tightened. "What did he say, baby?" Hea clung to her mother with shaking hands. "He said, she can't hide you forever." Mehak froze. "That's exactly what Aunt Soraya said," Hea whispered. Terror crept up Mehak's spine. "Hea," she whispered, trying to keep her voice steady. "What else did he say?" Hea swallowed. "He said, I'm coming." A wave of cold swept the room, stealing Mehak's breath. But then Hea added something that made Mehak's blood go ice still. "He said Aunt Soraya is helping him." Mehak's mouth went dry. "What do you mean?" Hea wiped her tears and looked up with eyes full of dread. "He said Aunt told him where to find me." A chill ran through Mehak so violently she almost jolted upright. Someone knew they were here. Someone, or something, connected to her sister's delusions, was now connected to Hea. Before she could respond, a soft sound came from the corner of the room. A faint, dragging scrape, like something lightly brushing across glass. Mehak whipped her head toward the mirror. The towel covering it trembled. Just slightly, as if something behind the glass had touched it. Hea whispered, "He's here." And the towel slipped down an inch. Just enough to show a dark shape, standing behind their reflections. The towel moved again. Just a shiver. Barely noticeable. But Mehak saw it. Her heart stopped. She grabbed Hea and stepped back, keeping her body between her daughter and the mirror. "Hea, don't look," she whispered. But Hea had already buried her face in Mehak's shoulder, shaking uncontrollably. The towel slipped another inch. Mehak reached for it, but her hand froze halfway. A sound came from behind the glass. A breath. Slow, deep, like lungs filling for the first time in years. Mehak snatched her hand back. Then, silence. Long, suffocating silence. Finally, she forced herself to speak. "Who are you? What do you want?" Nothing. Only her pulse pounding in her ears. But then, a faint whisper slid from the mirror, like someone speaking through a wall of water. Mahek. Her own name. Her knees nearly buckled. "No," she whispered. "No. This isn't real." Hea gripped her tighter. "He knows your name now," she sobbed. "He didn't before." A chill swept over Mehak. "Hea," she said carefully, "has he ever said my name before?" Hea shook her head against her shoulder. "Never. Only mine. But Aunt Soraya always told him yours." Mehak's chest tightened painfully. "Sweetheart, what do you mean? Aunt told who my name?" Hea pulled back just enough to look up. Her voice was trembling. "The man. The one from the mirror. Aunt talked to him all the time." Mehak's breath caught. "Talked? When?" "When she locked herself in that storage room," Hea whispered. "She told him secrets. She whispered names. She—" A sudden knock at the door made them both jump. Mehak almost screamed. It was soft. Polite. Far too calm for the hour. "Knock. Knock. Knock." Mehak pressed a hand over Hea's mouth gently, not to silence her, but to keep her from crying out. "Stay behind me," she whispered. She crept toward the door. Another knock. Steady. Rhythmic. "Hello," she forced out, voice cracking. "Who's there?" A pause. Then, a familiar voice. "It's Arian. Open the door." Relief flooded her so fast she nearly cried. She unlocked the door and pulled it open, and froze again. Arian stood there, but he looked strange. His clothes were soaked from the rain. His breathing sharp. His eyes, too wide, too awake for 3 a.m. "Mehak," he said quickly, "I need to see Hea." Something happened." "What happened?" Mehak asked. "We'll talk inside. Let me in." He stepped forward. Mehak didn't move. Something in her body held her still. A sense. A warning. Arian stopped when he realized she wasn't shifting aside. "Mehak," he repeated, "let me in." She frowned. "What happened that made you come here at this hour?" Arian swallowed. A bead of rain slid down his cheek. "I got your call." "No, you didn't." Mehak's voice was trembling. "We got disconnected. You never called back." Arian blinked. "I did." "You didn't answer." Mehak shook her head. "No. My phone never rang." Arian exhaled shakily, rubbing a hand over his face. "Look, I'll explain later. Just let me inside." Again he tried to step forward. Again her body refused to move. Her gut was screaming. Then she noticed something. Arian hadn't looked at Hea even once. Not even a glance. A doctor rushing at 3 a.m. because a child is in danger would look at the child. "Arian," she whispered slowly, "what did you call me by when we last spoke?" He frowned. "What kind of question is?" "Say it." A pause. Then, "I called you Mehak. Like always." Her stomach twisted. "No," she said softly. "You didn't. You called me Mehak Khan. Like you do whenever you're trying to be formal." Arian went very still. The silence between them thickened. And then, he smiled. Too wide. Too slow. Too wrong. Mehak stepped back instinctively, slamming the door shut so hard it rattled the frame. Hea screamed when the door hit. Something hit the door from the other side. Not a fist. A palm. Flat. Slow. Dragging downward. A sound like fingernails scraping the wood followed. Mehak grabbed the lock with trembling fingers. From outside, Arian's voice whispered, "You can't hide her, Mehak." The same tone. The same watery echo. The same voice the mirror had used. Hea buried her face in Mehak's chest. "He's here," she sobbed. "He found us." Mehak pressed her forehead against her daughter's hair, tears sliding down her own cheeks. "Not while I'm alive," she whispered fiercely. A final whisper seeped through the door, sending a shiver straight through their bones. "Your sister promised me the child." A violent shudder went through Mehak's body. Soraya. Her own sister. What had she done? The dragging sound stopped. Silence swallowed the hallway. After a long moment, Mehak whispered, Hea. Did he ever tell you his name? Hea nodded slowly, and when she spoke, Mehak felt the world tilt beneath her feet. He said his name is Diam. Aunt Soraya said he's been with our family for years. Mehak's blood froze. Diam. She knew that name. Every child in their village knew it. A name whispered only in old stories. A name mothers used to keep children from wandering near the well at night. A name associated with mirrors, shadows, and the ones who watch. Mehak whispered it back, barely breathing. Diam, the one who never leaves. And behind them, under the towel, the mirror pulsed once. Like a heartbeat. For nearly an hour, neither Mehak nor Hea moved. Rain drummed on the roof. Wind shoved at the windows. But the hallway outside remained terrifyingly silent. Finally, when Hea's trembling softened into exhausted sniffles, Mehak whispered, "We're leaving. Before sunrise." Hea only nodded, clutching her mother as if she were the last safe thing in the world. Mehak checked the window, still locked. Checked the door, still shut. Checked the towel covering the mirror, still in place. But something wasn't right. She could feel eyes on her. The kind of stare that sinks into your skin. She forced herself to breathe, forced herself to stay steady, and gently helped Hea lie down. "Close your eyes," she whispered. "I'm not sleeping, but you need rest." Hea shook her head hard. "I'm scared." Mehak stroked her hair. "I'm right here. And I won't let anything happen to you." Slowly, Hea's breathing steadied. Her eyes fluttered. Finally, she drifted into fragile sleep. Mehak waited until she was sure. Then she stood. There were pieces missing. Lies. Secrets. Connections she was only beginning to see. And all of them led back to one place. Soraya's old storage room. The room Hea mentioned. The room no one ever entered. The room Soraya always kept locked. If there were answers, they would be there. Mehak grabbed the guesthouse flashlight and stepped into the hallway. The wooden floor creaked softly under her feet. She paused. Listened. Silence. The kind that made every instinct scream. But she walked anyway. Down the hall. Toward the back room, the one that had been used as Soraya's art studio. The one that was always shut. Mehak reached the door. Her hand hovered above the doorknob. The house felt colder here. Like someone had exhaled ice across the walls. She swallowed hard, turned the knob. It didn't budge. Locked. Of course. But Mehak knew her sister. Soraya hid her keys in the same place since childhood. Under the vase near the entrance. Mehak hurried back, lifted the vase, and there it was. A single rusted key. She clenched it in her fist and returned to the door. The lock clicked open. The door creaked as she pushed it. A smell hit her immediately. Old cloth, damp wood, and something metallic. Blood. No. She pushed the thought aside and stepped in. The room was dark except for a sliver of moonlight spilling through the window. Mehak flicked on the flashlight. The beam swept across the walls. And she froze. The entire room was covered in drawings. Hundreds. Maybe thousands. Scratched into paper. Carved into wood. Painted onto old newspapers. All of them. Mirrors. Every drawing showed a mirror. Some tall, some cracked, some round, some broken. And every mirror had the same thing inside. A tall, faceless figure. A shadow with long fingers. A shape with no eyes, yet somehow looking straight at her. Diam. Mehak's stomach twisted. She walked slowly, eyes scanning the drawings. Each one had a date scribbled underneath. Some were recent. Others were years old. Her heart dropped when she read one. Hea's birthday, he said she's ready. Mehak covered her mouth to stifle a cry. Hands shaking, she moved to the next drawing. Words were scrawled across the margins. Messy. Desperate. He speaks when the house sleeps. He wants the child. I shouldn't have let him in the mirror. He won't leave me alone. The pills help him talk. She won't listen. She trusts me. Mehak stumbled backward. Her own sister had fed him, invited him, believed his whispers. A cold realization crept into Mehak's bones. Soraya wasn't giving Heya vitamins. She was preparing her. For him. For Daim. Mehak's flashlight beam landed on a locked wooden box in the corner. She approached it slowly. The box was old, carved with strange symbols, circles intersecting, lines crisscrossing. Her breath caught. She recognized these patterns. Her grandmother used to draw them on the floor during storms, saying they kept the watchers away. Mehak knelt and ran her fingers along the carvings. Her heart thudded. Should she open it? Her hands moved before her fear could stop them. The latch gave way with a soft click. Inside the box were a small mirror wrapped in cloth, a notebook, a vial of dark, dried liquid, and something else. A Polaroid photograph. Mehak's breath hitched. It was a picture of Heya, taken while she slept. And behind her, in the mirror beside the bed, a tall, shadowed figure leaned over her, its hand almost touching her hair. Mehak's body went numb. A sound escaped her throat, half gasp, half sob. Then, behind her, in the pitch-black hallway, a floorboard creaked. Slow, heavy, as if someone was walking up to the room. Mehak spun around. Who's there? Silence. Another step. Closer. Her pulse pounded behind her ears. She whispered, "Please, not now." A voice slid softly through the darkness. Mehak. Not shouted. Not growled. Whispered, as if said directly beside her ear. She dropped the picture, heart slamming into her ribs. She backed into the room, clutching the flashlight. From somewhere deep in the hallway, footsteps continued approaching. Measured. Unhurried. Inevitable. "Heya," Mehak whispered, panic crushing her chest. "Heya, wake up." She turned to run. But then she heard Heya scream from the guest room. The scream tore through the house like a knife. "Mama! He's here!" Mehak bolted down the hallway, her flashlight jerking wildly on the walls. Her feet pounded the floor. Faster, faster, faster. Behind her, something followed. Not running. Drifting. Heavy. Cold. And close. She reached the guest room, threw open the door, and froze in the frame. The towel had fallen off the mirror. And in the glass, Heya was reflected. But Mehak wasn't. In her place stood a tall, faceless shadow, with long, reaching fingers. "Daim." And he whispered, "Now she sees me." For a moment, Mehak forgot how to breathe. The mirror reflected a scene that did not exist in the real room. In reality, Heya was on the bed, curled against the wall, sobbing. But in the glass, she stood frozen, stiff as stone. And Daim towered behind her, his long shadow fingers stretching toward her shoulders. Mehak's voice broke out of her in a scream. "Don't touch her!" She lunged forward, grabbing Heya from the bed and pulling her into her arms. The reflection in the mirror did not move. Heya's reflected body stayed in place, still standing, still frozen, while the shadow behind her smiled without a mouth. Mehak's knees nearly gave out. "Heya," she whispered urgently, "don't look at the mirror." But Heya already had. "Mama!" Her voice shook like a leaf in the wind. "That's not me." Then the reflected Heya's head began to turn, slowly, impossibly, and she smiled. A hollow, unnatural smile. Mehak felt her heart rupture with fear. "That's not you," Mehak whispered, clutching her daughter's face between her hands to make her look away. "That's not you. That's not real." Heya shook, burying her face in her mother's chest. But the reflection continued moving. The shadow's fingers lifted, hovering just above the mirrored Heya's shoulder. The room suddenly groaned. The mirror's surface rippled. Like water. "No!" Mehak screamed and scrambled backward, dragging Heya with her. The rippling grew faster. Someone, was trying to push out. A hand pressed against the inside of the glass. No flesh. Just darkness. A handprint formed. Big, elongated, unmistakably inhuman. Heya cried out, gripping her mother with small, desperate fingers. "Mama, he's coming out!" Mehak's voice cracked. "Don't watch. Keep your eyes down." She pulled Hea close, tucking the child's face into her chest so she wouldn't see. Then Mehak looked up, and she saw something she wished she hadn't. A second hand pressed against the mirror. Then a third. The glass bowed outward like something inside was leaning on it, ready to break through. "Stop," Mehak whispered. "Please stop." She didn't know who she was begging, Dayam or God. But the mirror didn't stop. A crack snapped across the surface. A jagged white line. Then another. The sound was sharp and violent. Crack. Crack. Finally, the mirror split straight down the middle like it had been sliced open. Wind blasted out of it, cold, stale, smelling like earth and dead flowers. It pushed Mehak's hair back, stinging her eyes. Hea started sobbing uncontrollably. "Make him go away, Mama. Please." Mehak shielded her with her arms, staring at the splitting mirror. And then a face leaned out. Not a real face. Not human. Just the suggestion of one. A skull-like shape wrapped in shadow, with long, hollow pits where eyes should have been. He whispered, "She belongs with me." Mehak snapped. "No, she doesn't," she shouted, tears burning her cheeks. "She's my daughter. You can't have her." The shadow tilted its head at an unnatural angle. "Your sister knew she wasn't yours." The words hit harder than a slap. Mehak's breath caught. "What?" Dayam's fingers curled around the edges of the mirror's frame, pulling himself forward. "Soraya told me everything." Mehak shook her head so violently it hurt. "You're lying." The shadow smiled. An expression without a mouth. "She told me who the father was." Mehak felt her blood turn to ice. "Don't," she whispered. "You don't know anything." "Oh, but I do." Dayam whispered like poisoned silk. "I know why she hid it from you. I know why she fed me the pills. I know who paid her to keep the truth buried." Mehak stumbled backward until her spine hit the wall. "No, no. Stop talking." But the shadow leaned even closer. So close she could feel cold air skim her skin. "Your sister didn't give me the child out of fear. She did it out of guilt." "Guilt for what?" Mehak cried. Dayam's voice was a soft hiss. "For what she did to the real father." Everything inside Mehak broke. Her mouth opened, but she couldn't speak. Her heart pounded so loud she could barely hear anything else. Hea tugged at her sleeve with trembling hands. "Mama, what is he saying?" Mehak forced herself to pull her child close again, trying to shield her. But her own mind was unraveling. Her sister. The pills. The drawings. The secrets. Her sister had known something. Done something. Caused something. But Mehak couldn't think because Dayam kept speaking in that slow, suffocating tone. "She killed him, Mehak. She killed the man who would have protected the child from me." Mehak's breath shattered. "No," she whispered. "That's not true. That's not true." But looking into the mirror, into Dayam's hollow gaze, some part of her knew he wasn't lying. Not entirely. Suddenly, the mirror frame groaned again, splintering wood, as Dayam pushed even further out. Mehak grabbed Hea's hand and bolted for the door. But Dayam whispered one final thing that made her freeze mid-step. "You can run." The lights flickered. The walls shook. The mirror pulsed like a beating heart. "But she will still hear me in her dreams." Hea screamed. Not from fear. From pain. "Mama, my head. It hurts. He's talking inside." Mehak dropped to her knees, holding Hea as the child sobbed and pressed her hands to her temples, whispering, "Make him stop. Make him stop." Mehak sobbed into her daughter's hair. "I will," she whispered. "I swear to God I will." She lifted her trembling face toward the mirror. Dayam stared back at her, and whispered, "Then bring her to me, willingly." The mirror shattered, exploding outward, glass flying across the room like shards of ice. Everything went black. Blackness swallowed everything. Not the kind of darkness that comes when you close your eyes. This was deeper, heavy, alive. For a moment, Mehak thought she had died. Then sound came creeping back. A ringing. Sharp. Thin. Like metal vibrating inside her skull. Hea's whimper broke through it. Mama. Mehak's eyes snapped open. She was lying on the floor. Shards of glass glittered around her like frost. The air was cold enough to sting her nose. She pushed herself up with shaking arms. Hea, baby, are you hurt? Hea was huddled beside the bed, knees pulled to her chest. Her face was streaked with tears. Her small body trembled violently. Mehak crawled to her instantly and wrapped her in her arms. I've got you. I've got you. It's okay. No, it's not, Hea whispered, voice broken. He's still here. Mehak's heart lurched. She pulled back slightly. Where? Where is he? Hea pointed to her temple. And whispered. Inside. Mehak's stomach dropped. No, no, no. The mirror broke, Hea sobbed. But his voice didn't. A chill slithered up Mehak's spine. The mirror, or rather, the shattered remains of it, lay on the floor, the frame split apart like a broken ribcage. But the glass didn't reflect anything anymore. Just darkness. A pit. A doorway that had been opened, and not fully closed. Mehak stood, still holding on to Hea, and forced her mind to focus. She needed to move. To think. Soraya had known something. The drawings. The pills. The locked room. The photograph with the shadow. And Dayam's words. He told me who the father was. He killed the one who could protect the child. Her chest tightened painfully. She couldn't think about that right now. If she did, she would break. And she couldn't afford to break. Not now. Not with Hea trembling against her. Mehak cupped her daughter's face gently. Hea, sweetheart, what is he saying to you? Hea closed her eyes tightly. He keeps calling my name, she whispered. And he keeps saying. She swallowed a sob. He wants to show me something. Mehak's grip tightened. What does he want to show you? Hea's lips trembled. He says he wants to show me the place Aunt took him from. Mehak felt her blood go cold. The place, she repeated. What place? Did Aunt ever tell you anything like that? Hea shook her head. No, but he keeps saying Aunt did something bad. He says Aunt made a promise before she died. Mehak froze. Promise? Hea nodded slowly, tears filling her eyes. He says Aunt promised him I would come back. Mehak's heart nearly stopped. Come back, where? But Hea didn't answer. Instead, she stiffened suddenly. Her eyes unfocused, like she was hearing something Mehak couldn't. Hea! Mehak whispered. What is it? What's he saying? Hea's voice came out soft. Too soft. Not like her own voice at all. He says to follow. Mehak grabbed her shoulders. No. Do not listen to him. Look at me. Look only at me. Hea blinked, coming back to herself, just barely. Mama. He says he's not in the mirror anymore. He says he's in the house. A faint sound rose from the hallway. A soft creak. Like someone stepping on loose wood. Mehak held her breath. Another creak. Closer. Then. A slow dragging noise. Like fingernails brushing across the wall. Mehak's pulse hammered. No, she whispered. It's not real. It's not. A whisper drifted through the hallway. Mehak. Her bones went cold. This wasn't the mirror's muffled distortion. This was clear. Close. Inside the house. Hea clutched Mehak's arm. He says he can come through shadows now. Mehak's breath hitched. She turned her head slowly, terrified of what she might see. The hallway outside the room was dark, except for a thin strip of moonlight spilling from the window. Slowly, as if rising from smoke, a tall shape began forming in that strip of light. Not fully solid. Not fully human. Like a long shadow stretching itself into a body. Mehak's throat tightened. Hea, get behind me. Hea stumbled backward, pressing against the wall. The shadow took another step forward, and the room grew colder. Mehak whispered, You can't have her. The shadow tilted its head. An unnatural, bone-cracking tilt. You should have listened to your sister, the voice whispered. Mehak's heart stopped. My sister didn't understand what she was dealing with, Mehak said, her voice shaking. She was sick. She wasn't. She wasn't sick, Dayam whispered. She was chosen. Something inside Mehak snapped. Chosen by what? She shouted. The shadow's fingers elongated, stretching toward the floor. To carry what your grandmother hid. A low murmur. Soft. Terrifying. Your bloodline kept me for generations. Soraya was the first to answer. And now? The shadow extended a long, dark finger toward Hea. The child will be the last. Mehak lunged, grabbing the nearest thing she could, a broken shard of wood from the shattered mirror frame. Stay away from her. The shadow twisted as if amused. You cannot fight what you invited. What I invited. Mehak spat. I didn't invite anything. Oh, but you did. Dayam's whisper slithered through the room. When you opened Soraya's door, you let me out. Mehak staggered backward. Her knees nearly buckled. No. No, she couldn't break. Not now. Why? Mehak screamed. Why us? Why Hea? The shadow leaned forward and whispered a single sentence that turned Mehak's entire world to ice. Because she carries his blood. Mehak's breath tore out of her. No, she whispered. No. Stop. Stop. The father, Dayam hissed, belongs to me. Mehak's vision blurred. Her knees hit the floor. Behind her, Hea whispered, Mama, what does he mean? Mehak wiped her tears with shaking hands. I don't know, she whispered. But she did. Deep down, she knew. Dayam's shadow stretched across the floor, inch by inch, toward Hea. You cannot keep her, he whispered. She is already mine. Mehak sprung to her feet. Her voice was raw from fear and fury. Like hell she is. But the shadow moved faster. A tendril of darkness shot across the floor, wrapping around Hea's ankle. Hea screamed. Mehak grabbed her hand, pulling with all the strength she had. The shadow tightened. Hea cried out, Mama, he's pulling me. Mehak screamed. Let her go. Her strength was fading, her grip slipping. Hea was crying so hard she could barely breathe. And Dayam whispered, She will come willingly, once she learns the truth. Mehak, sobbing, used the broken wooden shard like a blade, and slammed it against the shadow on the floor. A sound tore through the room. A shriek. Not human. Not alive. The shadow recoiled violently, and released Hea's ankle. The lights exploded overhead, throwing sparks. A wave of freezing wind slammed into Mehak, throwing her backward into the dresser. Pain shot up her spine. She gasped, but pushed herself back up instantly. The shadow retreated into the hallway. But its voice lingered. Run if you wish. But the child's blood will always lead me back. And then, silence. Complete. Suffocating. Mehak crawled to Hea and held her tight. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Mehak understood something. She could not protect her child here. Not in this house. Not near Soraya's things. Not anywhere he could reach through mirrors and shadows. There was one place left. One person she had avoided for years. One man she swore never to contact again. But now she had no choice. She lifted her daughter and whispered, We're leaving. We're going to the only person who can fight him. Hea sniffled. Who? Mehak hesitated, because saying his name felt like reopening a wound she buried long ago. Finally, she whispered, Your father. And the room grew colder. As if Dayam had heard. As if he already knew where they were going. The highway stretched into darkness, broken only by the headlights slicing through the night. Mehak gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles were white, her breath sharp and uneven. Hea sat curled in the back seat, wrapped in a blanket, her head resting against the window. Every few minutes she twitched, like she was listening for something crawling inside her mind. Mehak kept checking the rear-view mirror. She didn't know what she expected to see. A shadow following them? A shape running beside the car? A voice whispering in the wind? Every time her eyes met Hea's reflection in the mirror, her chest tightened. Because she carries his blood. Diane's words echoed like a curse. She pressed the accelerator harder. They needed to reach him before Diane did. The road she hoped never to take again. The road out of town looked the same as it had 8 years ago. Twisting, deserted, lined with bare trees that clawed at the sky. She never imagined she'd drive it again. Not after everything. Not after the night she left him sleeping, unaware she would never return. Not after discovering she was pregnant and choosing silence over explanations. Not after the years of telling herself she didn't need him. But now, Hea needed answers. And those answers lay with the man who didn't even know he had a daughter. "Mama, is he dangerous?" Hea's small voice broke the silence. Mehak looked at her in the rearview mirror. "No," she said softly. "He's not dangerous." But the truth was more complicated. He wasn't dangerous. But he was something else. Something she never understood fully. "What's his name?" Hea whispered. Mehak hesitated. She hadn't said his name out loud in years. "Ashar," she finally whispered. Hea repeated it slowly, tasting it. "Ashar. Is he like Aunt?" "No," Mehak said quickly. "No, he's nothing like Aunt." But again, the truth was deeper. Ashar was the reason Soraya grew terrified of Mehak's pregnancy. Ashar was the reason Mehak left. Ashar was the reason Diane whispered. "He belongs to me." Mehak's fingers trembled against the steering wheel. "We're almost there," she whispered. Ashar's house. It was nearing 3 a.m. when the headlights washed over a gated property. A house hidden behind tall pines, isolated from the world. Mehak's breath caught the moment she saw it. The memories hit her like a punch. Nights on the rooftop under constellations he knew by name. His strange sense for things no one else noticed. His dreams, vivid, terrifying. Dreams he used to say weren't dreams at all. She never believed him. Until now. The gate was still open at one side. Broken, rusted, as if no one had fixed it in years. Mehak drove in slowly. Hea held her breath, eyes wide. "Mama, does he know we're coming?" "No," Mehak whispered. "He has no idea." "That's bad," Hea murmured. "What if he gets angry?" Mehak opened her mouth to reassure her. But she didn't get the chance. Because the porch light flickered on. And the front door opened. Ashar appears. A tall figure stepped into the doorway. Broad shoulders, unkempt hair falling over his forehead. Eyes dark and tired. He looked older. Rougher. But still unmistakably him. Ashar. He stared at the car for a long moment. Then slowly descended the steps. Mehak's pulse thundered. She stepped out of the car, legs weak, the cold night air biting into her skin. Ashar stopped several feet away. His voice was low, confused, and almost disbelieving. "Mehak." She swallowed hard. "Hi," she whispered. His jaw clenched. "You're, after 8 years? You're just here." Her eyes burned with unshed tears. "A lot has happened." He scanned her face, something like old hurt flickering in his eyes. Then he noticed the movement behind her. Hea, stepping out of the car, holding the blanket, her lips trembling, her eyes wide and scared. Ashar froze, and Mehak felt her heart collapse. He looked from Hea to Mehak, back to Hea, slowly piecing it together. The color drained from his face. "Is she?" Mehak nodded. "Ashar, this is Hea." His breath hitched. He staggered back a step. "You left," he whispered. "You left, and you were pregnant?" Mehak nodded again, eyes filling with tears. He ran a shaking hand through his hair, staring at the child who looked so painfully like him. Hea clutched Mehak's hand and whispered, "Mama, is he my father?" Mehak turned to her and forced a fragile smile. "Yes, sweetheart, he is." Ashar's knees nearly buckled. He inhaled a sharp, ragged breath. Why didn't you tell me? A tear slid down her cheek. Because you were already fighting something I didn't understand, she said. And I didn't want our child pulled into it. Ashar stared at her, eyes swirling with confusion, anger, hurt. But then something shifted. His expression turned from wounded to alert. Focused. Sharp. He took a slow step forward. What brought you here? He asked quietly. Because I know it wasn't this reunion. Mehak's voice trembled. We need your help. His eyes darkened. With what? She exhaled shakily, the words scraping her throat. There's something after Haya. Ashar froze. Every muscle in his body tensed. He whispered, voice hoarse. Who? Mehak shook her head. Not who, Ashar. What? Haya whispered behind her. He said you belonged to him. Ashar turned pale. A long, awful silence fell. Then Ashar stepped closer, almost protectively, his voice low, steady, and terrifyingly calm. What name did he give? Mehak whispered. Daim. Ashar closed his eyes. Like a man hearing the confirmation of a nightmare he had spent his life escaping. When he opened them again, they were full of something Mehak had never seen in him before. Fear. And resolve. He looked at Haya softly, gently. Then at Mehak. Come inside, he said quietly. Before he finds you. As they followed him into the house, the wind blew fiercely. And in the trees, Mehak swore she heard a whisper. You cannot hide her from me. But inside Ashar's house, something felt different. Not safe. No. But shielded. Protected. Like stepping behind a wall made of secrets. Ashar closed the door. Locked it. Then turned to them with a voice that sent a chill down Mehak's spine. I know what Daim wants. And I know why he's after her. Mehak whispered. Then tell me. Ashar shook his head slowly. First, there's something you need to understand. He looked straight into Mehak's eyes. Something heavy. Something ancient. Something she was not prepared to hear. I'm not what you think I am. Ashar's house was quiet, but the silence pressed down on Mehak like a weight. They had moved inside, the door locked firmly behind them, but the tension was far from gone. He gestured toward the worn-out sofa, but neither Mehak nor Haya moved. Ashar ran his fingers through his hair, eyes heavy with exhaustion and something else, something unspoken. Finally, he spoke. Mehak, there's a lot you don't know. About me. About why I left. About what we are. Mehak's breath hitched. What do you mean? Who are we? Ashar took a deep breath, then met her gaze with steady eyes. We're not like most people. There's a legacy, something tied to our bloodline. Something that's been passed down for generations. Haya peeked from behind Mehak, eyes wide. Like magic, she whispered. Ashar smiled faintly, but there was no humor in it. Not quite. More like a curse, and a responsibility. Mehak's heart pounded faster. She'd suspected something dark, but hearing it out loud made it real. Daim, Ashar continued, he's not just a shadow or a ghost. He's something ancient. A force bound to our family by a promise made long ago. Mehak swallowed hard. Soraya knew this. Ashar nodded. She did. And she tried to protect you all by keeping it a secret. But she made mistakes. Mehak's eyes burned. Mistakes that hurt my daughter. Ashar's expression tightened. Yes. But it's more complicated than that. Daim was once a guardian. A protector of our bloodline. But something changed him. What changed him? Mehak demanded. Ashar hesitated. There was a betrayal. Someone close to him broke an ancient pact. Daim was cursed to become what you see now, a shadow, a hunger. He's trapped between worlds, searching for a way back. Mehak's mind raced. But why Haya? Because she's the last of the bloodline, Ashar said quietly. She carries the key to freeing him or destroying him. Mehak's voice cracked. How do we stop him? Ashar looked away, jaw clenched. I don't know if we can stop him. But I know we can fight. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, ancient-looking pendant. This belonged to our grandmother. It has power. Protection. He handed it to Mehak. Keep this close. It will help shield Hea, and you. Mehak clutched the pendant, feeling a strange warmth spread through her fingers. Hea reached out, touching it gently. Will it make the bad shadow go away? Ashar smiled softly. It might. But more than that, it will help us find the truth. Mehak looked at Ashar, hope flickering amid the fear. Then tell me everything. I want to understand. Ashar nodded slowly. There's a story you need to hear, about why Dayam was cursed, and what our family must do to end it. The night deepened outside, but inside Ashar's home, a new chapter was about to begin. Ashar settled into an armchair by the fireplace, the flickering flames casting shadows on the walls as Mehak and Hea sat close, the ancient pendant resting in Mehak's palm. He took a slow breath, eyes distant but steady. This story begins centuries ago, he began. In a time when our ancestors made a pact with a spirit, a guardian meant to protect our family from harm. This spirit was Dayam's true form, once pure and bound by honor. Mehak leaned forward, gripping the pendant tighter. But something went wrong. Ashar nodded. Yes. One of our ancestors betrayed the pact, driven by greed and fear. The guardian was cursed, twisted into a shadow of itself, neither fully spirit nor human. Trapped between worlds, bound by hunger and vengeance. Hea shivered, her small hand finding Mehak's. Ashar continued, because of this curse, Dayam cannot rest. He seeks the last descendant of our bloodline, someone with the power to either break the curse or unleash it fully. Mehak's eyes welled with tears. That's why he's after Hea. Ashar's gaze softened. Yes, she is the key. But she is also innocent, unaware of the legacy she carries. Mehak asked, voice trembling, and my sister? Why did she feed Hea those pills? Ashar sighed deeply. Soraya knew about the curse. She tried to protect Hea by controlling Dayam's influence, using the pills to keep him at bay. But the longer she resisted, the stronger Dayam became. Mehak swallowed hard. So the pills weren't medicine. No. They were a shield. But fragile. A cold wind rattled the windowpane. Ashar stood, moving to a dusty cabinet and pulling out a weathered book bound in leather. This book holds the rituals and knowledge passed down through generations. If we can perform the right ritual, we might free Dayam, or end the curse entirely. Mehak glanced at Hea, whose eyes were heavy but determined. We have to try, Mehak whispered. For Hea. For our family. Ashar nodded, opening the book with reverence. But it won't be easy, he warned. The ritual requires strength, sacrifice, and facing what lies in the darkest parts of ourselves. Mehak took a deep breath. She was ready. For her daughter. For the truth. For the fight ahead. The first light of dawn barely seeped through the heavy curtains when Mehak, Ashar, and Hea gathered around the worn leather-bound book on the old wooden table. Ashar's hands trembled slightly as he traced the faded symbols on the page. This is the ritual that can sever Dayam's hold, he said softly. But it requires complete focus, and no distractions. Mehak nodded, swallowing her fear. We'll do whatever it takes. Hea's small voice interrupted. Will it hurt me? Ashar looked at her gently. There may be pain, but it will pass. We protect you, always. The room felt charged, thick with unspoken fears and hopes. Mehak looked at the pendant resting against her chest. It's our shield, she whispered. Ashar carefully began gathering ingredients, herbs, candles, and a small vial of something dark and ancient. Soraya left this, he explained. It's a key component, used to bind the ritual. Hea watched, eyes wide but trusting. Mehak took her daughter's hand, squeezing it. No matter what happens, we face this together. Ashar began chanting softly, words ancient and strange, but powerful. The candles flickered as a wind stirred inside the room, though the windows were shut tight. Hea shivered. Suddenly, the shadows in the corners seemed to twist and pulse. Mehak held Hea close. We're not alone, Ashar warned. The temperature dropped rapidly. A dark presence stirred beyond the veil. Mehak felt Dayam's whisper brush her mind. You cannot hide her. But she steeled herself, gripping Hea's hand tighter. This was their chance. Their fight. Their hope. And Mehak vowed silently, "I will not lose my daughter." The room trembled with unseen energy as Ashar's voice grew louder, the ancient chant weaving through the air like a spellbinding thread. Candles flickered wildly, their flames bending and twisting toward the corners of the room where darkness pooled thicker than before. Mehak held Hea tightly, her daughter's small hand trembling in hers. The pendant lay heavy against her chest, a fragile talisman against the encroaching shadows. Outside, the wind howled like a beast locked in chains, rattling the windows and stirring dead leaves against the walls. Inside, the air grew colder, each breath a sharp knife slicing through the silence. A whisper slithered into Mehak's mind, soft but chilling. "You cannot stop me." She clenched her jaw and tightened her grip on Hea. "Not this time," she whispered fiercely. The shadows around the room began to coalesce, moving, swirling, taking shapes that defied logic. Twisted fingers reached out from the darkness, trying to brush the candlelight, trying to breach the circle Ashar had drawn on the floor. Ashar's voice did not waver. If anything, it grew stronger, steadier, filling the room with power older than time. Suddenly, a crack appeared in the air above them, like the surface of a frozen lake fracturing. From that crack, a cold, hollow face emerged, a glimpse of Diam's twisted form, eyes like voids consuming light. Hea gasped and pressed closer to Mehak. "Stay strong," Ashar commanded, voice resolute. Mehak nodded, tears streaming down her face as the spirit lunged forward, only to be repelled by a sudden burst of light from the pendant. The room exploded with energy, the battle between light and shadow raging in every corner. And Mehak realized then, this fight wasn't just for her daughter's future. It was for their very souls. The battle between light and shadow twisted around them like a storm, the air thick with ancient power and raw fear. Ashar's chanting grew urgent, faster, stronger, weaving a web of protection around Mehak and Hea. The pendant glowed fiercely, pulsing like a heartbeat against Mehak's chest. Diam's hollow face pressed closer to the crack in reality, his shadowy fingers clawing at the fragile barrier Ashar had woven. Mehak felt a chill seep into her bones, but she refused to let it freeze her. "Stay with me, Hea," she whispered, brushing damp hair from her daughter's pale face. "We're almost through this." Hea nodded, tears shining in her wide eyes but her grip steady. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed through the room as the veil between worlds began to tear, thin threads of shadow reaching into their space, clawing for release. Ashar's voice became a powerful roar, an invocation older than time itself. With a blinding flash, the pendant unleashed a surge of radiant light, striking the shadow with such force it shrieked, a sound that echoed deep within their souls. The crack widened, and for a moment, Mehak glimpsed a world beyond, a dark, twisted reflection of their own, where fear and despair reigned. But Ashar's ritual held firm. The shadow screamed, writhing in agony as it was pulled back, dragged into the void it had once escaped. And then, silence. The room grew still, the oppressive cold lifting like a heavy fog. Hea blinked, the fear draining from her eyes, replaced by cautious hope. Mehak collapsed, exhausted but alive, holding her daughter close. Ashar nodded slowly, a weary smile breaking through his exhaustion. "It's over, for now." Mehak looked at the pendant in her hand, dull and dark once more. "We did it," she whispered. Ashar shook his head gently. "No. We only broke the veil. Diam's hold is weakened, but the curse still binds us." Mehak's heart tightened. "So what now?" Ashar's eyes met hers with fierce determination. "Now we prepare. Because one day he will try again." And Mehak knew this was only the beginning. For a brief moment, Mehak allowed herself to believe the worst had passed. Hea slept curled against her chest on the living-room couch, her breaths finally steady. Ashar paced the room in slow, deliberate strides, every movement weighted with a knowledge of what still lurked beyond the thin safety of their walls. The candles had burned low, leaving trails of molten wax like veins across the wooden table. The ritual book lay open, its pages trembling as if breathing. But the house felt wrong. Too silent. Too still. Mehak stroked Hea's hair gently, humming a soft tune she used to calm her as a baby. The girl barely stirred. Then she saw it. A faint, dark shape blooming on Hea's wrist, almost invisible in the dim light. A mark. A sigil. Mehak's stomach twisted. "Ashar," she whispered, panic rising in her throat. "Come here." He hurried over, and when he saw the mark, he froze. The color drained from his face as if the floor had just fallen from beneath him. "No," he muttered under his breath. "Not yet. Not this quickly." Mehak's voice shook. "What is it? What's happening to her?" Ashar swallowed hard, then knelt beside the couch. He lifted Hea's tiny wrist gently, tilting it toward the candlelight. The shape pulsated faintly, like ink dropped into living tissue. "It's a binding mark," he whispered. "Daim left a piece of himself inside her." Mehak's pulse hammered painfully. "No." We pushed him back. The ritual worked. Ashar turned toward her, expression full of sorrow she'd never seen in him before. "The ritual pushed him out of this world," he said. "But not out of her." Mehak's eyes filled instantly. "Then take it away. Remove it. Whatever you have to do. Ashar, please." "It's not that simple," he murmured, brushing a stray curl from Hea's forehead. "The mark isn't physical. It's spiritual. A thread tying her soul side to him. If I try to tear it out now, I could." He stopped. Mehak's breath hitched. "You could what?" Ashar's voice cracked faintly. "I could kill her." The world tilted. Mehak grabbed the edge of the couch, her vision blurring. "No. No, Ashar, don't say that. There must be another way." "There is," he said softly. "But it's dangerous. More dangerous than anything we've done so far." Mehak wiped her tears, nodding. "Tell me." Ashar stood, moving to the old cabinet again. He pulled out a thin wooden box, something she'd never seen. He opened it with shaky hands. Inside was a small, ancient mirror. The frame was carved with runes, the glass cloudy but pulsing faintly with a pale blue light. Mehak recoiled instinctively. "A mirror? After everything with Soraya." "This one isn't a gateway," Ashar said. "It's a prison." He held it out, the mirror humming softly. "If we can trap the mark, the piece of Daim, inside this, we can free her." Mehak leaned closer. "How?" Ashar exhaled. "Hea will have to face him." Mehak's heart stopped. "No," she whispered. "She's a child, Ashar. She's been through enough." "I know." His voice cracked. "But the bond is inside her. Only she can pull it forward. Only she can lure it into the mirror." Mehak shook her head, tears spilling freely. "I won't force her to go through that again." "She won't be alone," Ashar said gently. "You and I will be there, holding her, guiding her. She won't feel pain, just fear." "Fear can destroy a child," Mehak whispered. Ashar nodded slowly. "Fear can also save her." Mehak looked at Hea's small sleeping form, soft hair, fragile breaths, the faint mark crawling under her skin, and felt her soul split open. She bent down and kissed her daughter's forehead. "Then we do it," she whispered. "Tonight. Before he grows stronger." Ashar looked at her with a flicker of awe and sadness. "You're braver than you know." Mehak wiped her tears, standing tall. "I'm her mother." The house groaned, as if reacting to her decision. And somewhere deep in the walls, or perhaps deep within Hea, a familiar whisper crawled across the room. "You cannot take her from me." Mehak's hand tightened around the pendant. "We'll see about that." The house felt alive. Every creak of the wood, every sigh of the wind pressed against the walls like a warning. Something waited in the dark corners, listening, crawling, anticipating the moment they would make their move. Mehak followed Ashar into the basement, the only room in the house untouched since his childhood. Dust hovered like fog in the air, and old shelves sagged under the weight of forgotten relics. The mirror, small, ancient, humming faintly in Ashar's hand, felt heavier with every step. Hea walked between them, her wrist wrapped in a cloth to hide the pulsing mark. Her tiny fingers clung to Mehak's tightly. "Mama," she whispered, voice tiny, "will it hurt?" Mehak knelt in front of her, cupping her face. "Not if I can stop it," she promised. "And I won't let go. Not even for a second." Ashar lit a ring of candles around them, each flame flickering a different color, green, gold, red, blue, forming a protective barrier carved in ancient symbols. When the last candle steadied, he placed the mirror on the floor inside the circle, propping it upright. Its surface rippled faintly, like water disturbed by breath. Hea stared at it. "It looks alive." "It is," Ashar murmured. "It's meant to lure spirits and trap them." Mehak pulled Hea into her lap, wrapping her arms around her daughter's trembling body. "What do we do?" Mehak asked, voice shaking. Ashar knelt across from them. "You hold her. Keep her grounded. I'll draw the mark out, guide it into the mirror." Mehak nodded. "And Daim." Ashar's gaze darkened. "He'll fight. The moment he senses us pulling him out, he will attack." The candles flickered violently, as if agreeing. Mehak took a breath so deep it hurt. "Then let him come. The ritual begins." Ashar placed his hands gently over Hea's wrist. The mark pulsed beneath the cloth, slowly at first, then faster, like a heartbeat trying to escape. Hea whimpered. "It's okay," Mehak whispered into her hair. "You're safe. You're safe with me." Ashar began chanting. The words were low, rhythmic, slipping into the air like dark honey. The candles responded, tall flames stretching upward, bending toward Hea. The mirror vibrated. A soft wind swirled inside the circle, though the basement was sealed tight. Hea gasped and clutched Mehak's shirt. "Mama, he's waking up." "It's okay," Mehak said, though her voice cracked. "I've got you." Ashar pressed harder on the mark. "Come out," he whispered. "Leave the child." The mark flared, bright and angry, burning through the cloth. Hea cried out. Mehak held her tighter, tears streaming silently. Suddenly, a cold voice slithered up from the floorboards. "You dare pull me from what is mine." Every candle flame snapped sideways. The mirror's surface darkened instantly, as if ink spilled across it. Daim's voice deepened. "She is the last of your cursed blood. I will not give her up." Ashar's chant grew louder. "Hea," he whispered urgently, "look into the mirror. Do not look away." Mehak turned her daughter gently. Hea's terrified eyes met the glass. At first, nothing. Then, a shadow appeared behind her reflection. A tall, twisting figure. Head bent, teeth like broken stone. Hea screamed. Mehak almost ripped her away, but Ashar shouted, "Don't move." The mark on Hea's wrist writhed violently. Something was being pulled. Something angry. Something ancient. The shadow in the mirror slammed its hands against the glass, cracking it. Daim roared. "She carries my thread. She is mine." The mark burst open, black smoke exploding outward. Hea shrieked. Mehak held her so tightly her arms shook. Ashar thrust both hands toward the mirror, dragging the smoke with his voice, his will, his bloodline. "Into the glass. Back into the glass." The smoke resisted, tendrils lashing at the air, clawing at Mehak, reaching for Hea. One tendril wrapped around the child's throat. Mehak screamed. "Ashar! Help her!" Ashar slammed his palm onto the ground, the symbols under them glowing with violent light. The tendril ripped away from Hea, pulled like a chain being yanked. The smoke was sucked toward the mirror, screaming, twisting. Then the shadow's face formed in the glass. Dark. Grotesque. Smiling. "This is not over." With a thunderous crack, the smoke was sucked entirely inside. The mirror sealed with a flash, and the glass went clear and cold. Silence. Hea collapsed into Mehak's arms, sobbing. Mehak sobbed with her, rocking her back and forth. "It's over," she whispered. "You're safe. You're safe." Ashar dropped back on his heels, exhausted and pale, sweat dripping down his temples. He whispered, "We trapped the piece of him, but the rest of him is still out there." Mehak looked up sharply, gripping Hea protectively. "So he'll come back." Ashar nodded slowly. "He will crawl through any shadow he can find, until he gathers enough strength to take her again." Mehak's heart stopped for a full second. "But," Ashar added, voice steadying, "the bond is broken. He can't reach her mind anymore. For now, she's free." Mehak kissed Haya's forehead. Then we'll keep her safe. No matter what. The mirror lay still on the floor, dormant but full. A prison holding a sliver of ancient darkness. But as the last candle went out, a whisper rose from the glass. For now. The next morning arrived too quietly. For the first time in weeks, Haya slept without tossing, without whispering to unseen things, without clutching her wrist in pain. Mehak watched her daughter's peaceful face, brushing a soft curl from her forehead, feeling an ache of gratitude so deep it nearly brought her to her knees. But the silence in the house wasn't comforting. It was listening. Ashar stood near the window, arms crossed, eyes scanning the trees outside as if expecting them to move on their own. Mehak joined him after pulling a blanket over Haya. "What are you looking for?" she asked softly. Ashar didn't look away from the glass. "Shadows don't die," he murmured. "They retreat. They observe. And when they're hungry enough, they return." Mehak's stomach tightened. "Is he close?" Ashar hesitated. "Something is." A knock in the wrong silence. At noon, the door knocked. 3 slow, deliberate thuds. Mehak froze mid-step. Ashar turned sharply, eyes narrowing. Nobody knocked on their door here. Nobody even knew they were staying in the old farmhouse. Ashar signaled Mehak back, stepping cautiously toward the entrance. The knocking came again. Thud, thud, thud. He placed his hand on the door but didn't open it. "Who's there?" he called out. Silence. Then a soft voice on the other side. A woman's voice. "Ashar, open the door, Beta." Mehak's breath hitched. She knew that voice. Ashar went rigid, the blood draining from his face. "That's," Mehak whispered. "I know," he said, barely audible. The voice came again, sweeter this time, dripping with familiarity. "Let me in, Ashar. It's your mother." Mehak's heart pounded painfully. "Ashar, your mother is dead." The voice outside chuckled, a sound human lips could never make. "Dead, and yet here." Ashar backed away from the door. "Don't listen," he whispered. "It's him. He's shifting forms." The voice deepened slightly, not enough to break the illusion, but enough to curdle the air. "Let me see my granddaughter." Mehak's protective instinct surged like fire. She stepped forward before thinking. "You stay away from her." A long pause. Then the voice on the other side laughed. "Low, cold, hungry. I already know her name." Mehak's blood turned to ice. Ashar shouted, "Stay away from the door." But it was too late. The doorknob twisted, slowly, as if something unseen was testing it. Then it rattled violently. Haya woke upstairs with a scream. Mehak spun around. "Haya!" The door handle stopped moving abruptly. The presence outside withdrew like a fading heartbeat. And then, silence. Ashar ran upstairs with Mehak close behind. Haya's new mark. They burst into Haya's room. She sat upright in bed, shaking, pointing at the wall. "Mama," someone whispered in my ear. Mehak rushed to her, gathering her into her arms. "What did they say, baby? Tell me." Haya swallowed hard, eyes brimming. "They said, I found you." Ashar's heart sank. He pulled her wrist gently. The skin was smooth where the mark had been. But a new marking had appeared. This one faint, not burned into her flesh, but drawn on the surface, as if traced by something cold and invisible. A symbol, simple, ancient, and unmistakable. Ashar's voice cracked as he exhaled. He marked her again. From outside the house. Mehak held Haya tighter. "Noah, how? How can he reach her if the bond was broken?" Ashar's voice was low, pained. "Because now he knows her name. Her true name carries power. And he's using it to find her again." Mehak's world tilted. "So what do we do now?" Ashar met her eyes. Determined, but terrified. "We run. We leave this house. We hide her somewhere the shadows can't follow." Mehak's voice shattered. "And after that?" Ashar looked at the new mark glowing softly on Haya's skin. "Then," he whispered, We go after Dayam himself.